By the time I turned 24, I had $100,000 saved. No inheritance, no high-paying tech job, no lottery ticket. Just 20 habits that I repeated so many times they became automatic. I wasn't earning six figures either. For most of those years, I had a normal, unremarkable salary. What made the difference wasn't income. It was that almost none of it leaked out. Here are all 20 habits, in the order they actually mattered. The first thing I did, before changing a single spending habit, was track everything. Every coffee, every ride, every subscription, written down for a full year. You cannot fix a leak you cannot see. And when I actually looked at the numbers, I found nearly $300 a month disappearing into things I couldn't even remember buying. Once I could see my spending clearly, I flipped my default answer to purchases from yes, unless to no, unless. Most people's brain says yes automatically and only occasionally talks itself out of a purchase. I trained mine to do the opposite, and every purchase had to earn a yes. Then came automation. The day my paycheck landed, a fixed percentage moved automatically into a separate savings account before I ever saw it, and before I could talk myself out of it. I never had to make a decision to save, only decisions about what was left. Alongside that, anything over $50 that wasn't a bill or a necessity had to sit for 24 hours before I bought it. Roughly half the time, the urge just disappeared, because the purchase was never really about the item. It was about a feeling in the moment. Eating out was the exception in my life, not the norm. I learned to cook about 10 meals really well and rotated through them. And because food is a daily expense, this small habit compounded faster than almost anything else I did. Every raise, every bonus, every unexpected windfall went straight to savings first instead of a lifestyle upgrade, which is the habit that quietly separates people who build wealth from people who just earn a good living. Furniture, electronics, my car, almost everything I owned was used, letting someone else absorb the depreciation while I paid a fraction of the price. I also negotiated everything: rent, bills, medical costs, even my starting salary. Most people never ask, so most people never get, and the worst outcome of asking is simply a no. Housing was where I was strictest. I never let rent creep above a fixed percentage of my income, even in years when I could technically afford more, because housing is the single biggest line item in most budgets, and if that number grows with your income, there's nothing left to save. I bought an inexpensive, reliable used car with cash and never took on a car payment, which freed up hundreds of dollars a month that would otherwise have quietly bled away for years. Every few months, I also went through every subscription I had and canceled anything I hadn't genuinely used in the past 30 days. I didn't wait until I felt like I had enough to start investing. I started small and early, mostly in simple index funds, because time in the market is the one advantage you can never buy back once it's gone. I also never carried a credit card balance, since interest on debt works exactly opposite to compound interest on savings. Instead of growing your money, it grows what you owe. Frugality has a ceiling, though. You can only cut so much before there's nothing left to trim. So alongside cutting costs, I actively worked on increasing income through side projects, new skills, and better negotiating at work. Cutting expenses got me started, but growing income is what actually accelerated everything. None of it would have stayed on track without a specific, written goal. $100,000 by 24 wasn't a vague wish. It was a number on a spreadsheet with a deadline, and that gave me something concrete to measure every decision against. I also noticed a pattern early on where a bad day would trigger an urge to buy something, so I built other outlets for that feeling instead of reaching for my card. When shopping, I always went in with a list and left with exactly what was on it, since browsing is where impulse purchases are born. Any major purchase got researched, compared across options, and slept on for weeks rather than bought on impulse in the moment. The people I spent the most time with weren't pushing a high-spend lifestyle either, which made frugality feel normal instead of a constant uphill battle. Finally, once a month, without fail, I sat down and looked at the real numbers: savings rate, net worth, spending patterns, because what gets measured gets managed, and that monthly check-in is what kept every other habit on this list honest. None of these habits are exciting by themselves. That's the whole point. Consistency beats intensity every time, and stacking even half of these into your own life is enough to see your savings move faster than you'd expect.